Welcome. You're on the Ant-Man channel watching my video. It is the Wednesday night. I've never reported on a night or evening actually. It's the evening, but over here it's kind of dark already and on the West Coast. Um, it is 6:44 p.m. Wednesday, January 9th, 2013. I'm going to try to be as composed as never before as I try to, read the news to you today. I've been through a lot today, mentally, man. I mean, I'm fighting my spiritual battles. Are you? The weekly prescription shocker vaccine prevents gun violence. Exclusive Dr. Lee Hiob illustrates how science of inoculation works. Inoculation works. By Lee Hiob, MD. Dr. Lee Hiob, I hope I'm saying that right, is an orthopedic surgeon specializing in spinal surgery. She is past president of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, a free market medical organization. And she writes, in recent years, some physicians and physician groups have proposed that gun violence be considered a disease, that we should analyze these public mass shootings as we would a disease, and using that paradigm, search for a cure. Sorry, I don't know that word. Here's just a peek at that word real quick. I hope you can see that. Right there. Paradigm. I don't know what that means. Help me out, people. I'm not a scholar. People don't like me. I'm just playing. Of course, their cure is always disarmament of all citizens, not just criminals, but the same docs want more evidence-based medicine, and the evidence points to a very different approach. In the late 18th century, a London physician, Edward Jenner, learned from the local dairymen that dairymaids who got cowpox never contracted the more fatal smallpox. He speculated that cowpox somehow prevented smallpox and tested this theory by taking germs from the cowpox lesions and inoculating unexposed persons. These people were shown to survive smallpox outbreaks unscathed, and thus was both the science of immunology and the process of controlling the deadly disease of smallpox. This is real science, observation, testing, and practice. No politics involved. If we observe gun violence as a disease, one thing is strikingly clear. This disease never strikes people known to be potentially armed. It may be true that the recent Connecticut shooter was mentally ill, but he was not so crazy as to take on a police station. Neither he nor any of the other similar shooters decide to shoot up gun stores or NRA conventioneers. They may be crazy, but apparently not that crazy. Not just cowardly and doped out of their mind. No, they invariably pick gun-free zones for their mayhem, and when confronted with an armed counterforce, they either surrender or shoot themselves. They do not wage gun battles against other armed people. So using the logic of Edward Jenner, the inoculation to prevent the disease of gun violence is putting guns into the hands of potential victims. So thinking like Edward Jenner, let's see what happens when we do just that. Arm citizens by permitting concealed carrying of firearms. Dr. Jacob Deakins, in an intelligent review of the subject, Guns, Truth, Medicine, and the Constitution, points out that both the U.S. National Academy of Sciences in 2004 and the Center for Disease Control in 2003 failed to find any written evidence that gun control reduced violent crimes, suicide, or gun violence. Dr. Deakins goes on to cite John Lott Jr., who reviewed the FBI's yearly crime statistics for all 3,054 U.S. countries over 18 years. Counties. I said countries. 3,054 U.S. counties over 18 years, 1977 through 1994. This constitutes the largest national survey of gun ownership and state police documentation and illegal gun use. Lott concludes, while neither state waiting periods nor the federal Brady Law is associated with a reduction in crime rates, adopting concealed carry gun laws cut death rates from the public multiple shootings by 69%. Allowing people to carry concealed weapons deters violent crime. Without an apparent increase in accidental death, if states without right to carry laws had adopted them in 1992, about 1,570 murders, 4,177 rapes, and 70,000 aggravated assaults would have been avoided annually. Children 14 to 15 years of age are 14.5 times more likely to die from automobile injuries, 5 times more likely to die from drowning or fire and burns, and 3 times more likely to die from bicycle accidents than they are to die from gun accidents. When concealed carry laws went into an effect in a given county, murders fell by 8%, rapes by 5%, and aggravated assaults by 7%. For each additional year concealed carry laws are in effect, the murder rates declines by 3%, robberies by more than 2%, and rape by 1%. It is generally conceded that immunization of some percentage of a population confers decreased risk of disease on the entire group. Not just those immunized, the so-called herd immunity, so too. Allowing people voluntarily to carry concealed weapons confers some protection on those not carrying, because criminals and crazies never know if the person they confront will be armed. Exactly. Recently in New York State, a newspaper published a who's who of registered gun owners in 2 counties, giving out names and addresses. Part of the ensuing hue and cry came not from those listed, but from people not on the list who had just been outed and as being unarmed. They felt they had been put at risk by this information. So to every no gun sticker on every hospital or school door puts occupants on the building at risk. No duh. That's like saying it's hunting season and then putting what's on the menu and then dressing up like that and running around in that area. You know, it's pretty obvious. You're gonna put no gun-free zones at schools. That's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. But with these liberals nowadays, you know, whatever they say, because you're a liberal, you must be right. I guess that's the you know, if you're a liberal and you're a professor and you teach evolutionary psychology and Big Bang Theory and what name you, then you don't believe in anything, and and you don't believe in guns being able to protect you. I mean, it's not that the guns are to blame for what's going on. It has to do with you, man. It has to do with the individual. It's like when I was a kid and I used to get blamed for everything that, you know, I don't know how to put it in a good example. Let's see. You can't blame spoons for you know, making people fat. It's fat people who use the spoons to eat their faces off. But that again isn't anything to joke about. Some people are actually, you know, they have struggle. They have a lot of struggle with that area of their life, and that is gluttony. And I'm, you know, I have like everyone else, have my flaws. I'm not pretending to be Mr. Perfect over here, because that would be, you know, you could see right clear through me if, you know, if you're a fellow Christian. Recently in New York Times, blah, 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 Edward Jenner wasn't the first person to invent vaccination. He was the first to tune in and sell the idea to the masses. More people had died as the result of smallpox than from all the wars combined. But now no one dies thanks to appropriate medical action. How many unarmed populations will be genocidally murdered? How many shooters and shootings will take place in gun-free zones before we get the point? Take appropriate action and allow weapons to be carried by those at risk and or their defenders. I don't know. It's up to you, I guess, to figure that out. Godspeed.